Hi, welcome back to Biology Classes with Lakshmi Chandra. Hope you are all safe at home. We have been dealing with a very important topic, a very complicated topic that is related to our genetic material, that is DNA. So we have already completed the structure of DNA, how the double helix is formed, the various components, how they are arranged, the names of the bonds between them, and so forth. So having completed that, let's today understand how our genetic material is placed inside the nucleus. That means how our DNA material is getting packed. Or the topic for today is DNA packaging. Now, what is the importance of this topic? That we should understand first. To understand that, again let's go back to certain dimensions of the DNA that we have learned. I hope you all remember that we had learned the distance between two base pairs in DNA. Can you just recollect that? The distance between adjacent base pairs in DNA is how many nanometers? Distance between adjacent base pairs. Exactly. It is 0.34 nanometers. So that is the first thing. In order to understand packaging of DNA or what is the importance of this packaging, we should know certain things. So that's what I am taking you towards. Okay. So first, the distance between adjacent base pairs in DNA is 0.34 nanometer, or I can write this as 0.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters. So nanometers I have just written here in meters. Okay, so this is the first thing. This you all know about this and you have recollected it also rightly. Now next point that we all must know is what is the total number of base pairs in our DNA? What is the total number of base pairs? Is it 10, 12, 100, 200? How many base pairs do we have? Any idea? Yeah, it is number of base pairs. Number of base pairs, it is 6.6 into 10 raised to 9. These many base pairs we have. 6.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs are there in every cell of human body. And the distance between the adjacent base pairs is 0.34 into 10 raised to 9 meters. Now, if I am telling you that there is a ladder here, okay, there is a ladder here, and in this ladder 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 steps are there. There are 10 steps. Okay, and the distance between the adjacent steps, is 2 meters. Okay, there is a ladder. Distance between adjacent steps is 2 meters. So between every 2 steps, the distance is 2 meters. Again, next 2 adjacent steps, the distance is 2 meters. So now I am asking you to find out what is the total length of this ladder. Okay, what is the total length of this ladder? It's very simple. You know the distance between them is 2 meters and the number of steps is 10, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 steps and the distance between every adjacent step is 2 meters. So what is the total length? Simple. Just multiply these two. So it is 20 meters. the same thing, the same analogy I am going to put here for our DNA for you to understand what is the total length of DNA present in every cell of human body. Yes, now within this time you might have calculated the total length. Total length of DNA. You know the distance between adjacent bases. You know the number of bases, isn't it? We can compare this ladder to our DNA. It's a helical ladder. Okay, so you can just multiply the distance between adjacent bases with the number of bases. That is 0.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters into 6.6 into 10 raised to 9. 10 raised to 9. You multiply these two and you will get the total length approximately 2.2 meters. So our DNA, every cell in every cell of our body, if you just take the DNA and you stretch it as a line like this, a thread like this, what will be the length? It will be approximately 2.2 meters. So that is the length of our DNA. Now why I am connecting this to this particular topic, packaging? Let's understand that. So now you understood how to calculate the total length of our DNA molecule. Okay. Now, do you know what is the dimension of our nucleus? What is the dimension of our nucleus? Dimension means what is the measure of our nucleus? Any idea? You know, our DNA is present inside the cell. Inside the cell it is present in an area called as nucleus. Cell is very small, very microscopic. Inside that the nucleus is still very small. And do you know what is the dimension of the nucleus of our cell? It is 10 raised to minus 6 meters. Very, very, very small. 10 raised to minus 6 meters is our nucleus. And inside that what is present? 2.2 meters long thread is present. So inside the very small area, 2.2 meter long thread should be packaged and kept inside. So if you simply take a thread and you try to coil the two ends of the thread, it will shorten, isn't it? It will shorten and it will occupy a space, a very small space. Okay, like the land phone, telephone wire and all, to start coiling first and then it will come together in a very small space and it is kept inside. Our DNA cannot be simply packaged like that and kept, because DNA is our genetic material. If it is simply kept like that, it will not be able to function properly. It cannot give the cell the proper information at the proper time. So there is some way how this DNA is getting packaged inside this particular very small nucleus, and staying there inside the nucleus it is able to give information for the cell to carry out its functions. So that is the importance of this particular topic, DNA packaging. Okay, so why we are actually learning this topic is to connect how this 2.2 meter long DNA is packaged inside or kept inside the very small 10 raised to minus 6 meters having dimension the nucleus. So that is the importance. Okay, now let's see how this packaging is done. How this is done. So I hope you understood these dimensions. So from this, children, one question can be asked, like suppose I am telling you the length of E. coli, okay, the length or the total length of E. coli genome, the DNA, is 1.36 millimeters. This I told you, the length I told you. And I am asking you, or in the question, you are asked to find out what is the total number of base pairs. You are asked to find out the total base pairs. So this you have to work out. Now what relation will you use? You can use the same relation. So this relation, I'll just put here in nutshell. The length, total length is equal to distance between adjacent base pairs into the total number of base pairs. So this you all should know. The total length is always measured as the distance between adjacent base pairs into the total number of base pairs. Okay, distance between adjacent base pairs into the total number of base pairs. Now among these two, always if it is a BDNA, that is what we have just completed in the previous session. If it is a BDNA, always the distance between adjacent base pairs will be a constant value. That is, it is going to be 0.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters. So this value is a constant value for almost all organisms. All organisms, those who have this B form of DNA. Like in human body, we are having B form. So what is that? A form, B form, C form, D, Z form. So these are the different forms of DNA that we dealt with in the previous session. You should have a look into that session if you had missed that, so that you will understand what is this, why this is coming like this 0.34. Okay. So here in this session, always if it is a BDNA, the distance between adjacent bases, like I told you, the distance between two steps in a ladder, that is going to be fixed. It is 0.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters. This is fixed. So what can change is either the number of base pairs can change or the total number or the total length can change. So any one can be a question for you. Either in the board they will ask you to find out the total length of the DNA, or they will ask you to find out the number of base pairs. So just put it in the formula and you divide or multiply accordingly, you will get. Because this value is constant. Okay. See, if they are asking you to find out the total length, just multiply these two. If they are asking you to find out this one, what is the base pairs? This is the question. See, what is the total base pair? I am providing you the length. I told what is the total length. But I am asking you what is the number of base pairs. So what will you do? What will you do? You should apply this particular formula. Length is equal to distance between adjacent base pairs. So distance between adjacent base pairs into the total number of base pairs. Distance between adjacent base pairs into the total number of base pairs. So what is asked? Total number is asked. How to find out that? You just divide the length by the distance between adjacent base pairs. This value you bring it here, you will get the total number of base pairs. Okay, so that is what is asked. What is the length? Length is given 1.36 millimeters. It is given. What is the total number of base pairs? That you have to find out. So divided by distance between adjacent base pairs. So that is always distance between adjacent base pairs is a constant value. I told you that is 0.34 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters. This also millimeters also you can change into meters, 10 raised to minus 3 meters. Okay, and then ultimately you will get the value 4.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs are there. 4.6 into 10 raised to 9 base pairs are there in our E. coli DNA. Okay, so this you have to work out at home and find it out. 4.6 into 10 raised to not 9 children, it is 4.6 into 10 raised to 6 base pairs. Sorry for that, 6 base pairs. If you convert millimeter to meter, this will come. Okay, so this is how. Like this in your examination, anything can be given. For any organism, either the total number they will give you or the total length they will give you. Just find out the answers. It's very simple likewise. Okay. So let's now focus back to the DNA packaging Okay, DNA packaging. Yeah. So in this DNA packaging, imagine this 2.2 meter long DNA. This is DNA, imagine, and this is 2.2 meter long. Okay, and this has to be kept inside a very small nucleus. It is now kept inside a very small nucleus. It is kept. The main challenge here is it will encounter a problem, that is our DNA is having negative charge. DNA is negatively charged, isn't it? What makes DNA negative charge, or what gives DNA that negative charge, or why DNA is not positively charged, or why it is not neutral? It's all because of the presence of the component called as phosphate. My dear students, you all must know this. Okay, our DNA molecule is having a negative charge because it is having phosphate. You know there are three components: nitrogenous base, pentose sugar and phosphate. Nitrogenous base is neutral, pentose sugar is neutral, phosphate is having negative charge. So that negative charge imparts a negative charge here also for our DNA. Now imagine if this whole negative charges are brought together, they will start repelling. That is natural, isn't it? They will start repelling each other and the DNA will not stay there stable, because there will be always a repulsive force. And so our DNA will never be stable inside the nucleus. And then we can't call that as a genetic material, because the first and most important property of genetic material is it should be stable. But if it is negatively charged, as I told you here, it is negatively charged, and if all those charges are kept inside this very small shell of our nucleus, they will start repelling each other and it will lose that property of stability of genetic material. But then our DNA packaging, another phase is there that we are going to learn, is making this negative charges to have the neutral value, or it is actually diluting those negative charges, or it is diluting that repulsion. How that is done? How that is diluted, this negative charges? It's all because of the play of a special kind of proteins. Okay, you should all know the names of those proteins. They are called as histone proteins. These histone proteins. These histone proteins, they are rich in positively charged amino acids. Histone proteins are rich in positively charged amino acids like lysine and arginine. Lysine and arginine. Now, here, amino acid, this is a biomolecule. Now, since I told you I was taking the structure of DNA, I had put a special session for you to understand what is that ribose sugar. So that I have taken a special session like polysaccharides. Okay, definitely I'll also take a special session for this amino acids. Okay, what is the amino acid? What is this lysine? What is arginine? Why they have positive charges? Okay, and so if they are the two positively charged amino acids, definitely there will be some negatively charged or neutral amino acids as well. So how it is getting that positive and negative charges, or how some are neutral, all these things will be dealt with. Please wait for that session. But here, understand, histones are rich in, they are not all, they don't have, histones are not made up of only lysine and arginine, but they are rich in positively charged amino acids like lysine and arginine. Okay, they have other amino acids also. That point you should make it very clear. Histones are a kind of proteins which are rich in positively charged amino acids like lysine and arginine. Now you know what they are doing? These positively charged amino acids actually they neutralize this negative repulsion of the phosphate groups present in our DNA. They dilute it. Now let's understand how that is happening. So here this point I think you have understood the importance of packaging, that our DNA is 0.2 meter long DNA that is kept inside a very small nucleus. Okay, and not only that, when it is kept inside the very small nucleus, the negatively charged phosphates in them starts repelling, and that repulsion is avoided by the entry of another kind of protein called as histone proteins. They are rich in positively charged amino acids like lysine and arginine. Now let's see how these two are arranged. How these histone proteins are arranged with the negatively charged our DNA molecule. Okay, so for that I'll have to show you another structure. Focus on this egg here. The positively charged histone proteins, no, they form an octamer. That means they are going to form an histone octamer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Histone is a protein rich in positively charged amino acids, I told you. You know, every protein has got a primary structure, a secondary structure, tertiary structure and quaternary structure. Okay, if you don't know about these structures, don't worry at all. A special session will be put on these under biomolecules playlist. Do watch that. Okay, don't worry about that. For the time being, just understand proteins are threads of amino acids joined one after the other. So you will get like a mala. Okay, beads of amino acids are there on a string and you get a mala. You fold this mala into different shapes. That is the secondary structure. Again you fold it. That is the tertiary structure. So this folding is not happening as in how it likes, but there are special bonds created. Okay, that's how it is happening. Okay, so that particular structure is here. Each histone molecule. See, this one is a histone protein, one, second one, third one, fourth one. So whatever I have drawn as circles, each one is a histone protein. And there are 4 histone proteins arranged like this. But I have written here octamer. Octamer means 8 units should be there. Octa means 8. But here I have written only 4 units. What about the rest 4? The rest 4 are placed over these 4. Okay. Now the rest 4 will be placed inside this one. Another one. 5th one. 6th one. 7th one. And 8th one. So you have 4 structures. And again 4 structures placed over the existing 4 ones. Okay, superimposed over that. So now you are getting 8 histone molecules. 4 kept over another 4. So you have 8 histone molecules arranged. And this arrangement, 8 histone molecules are arranged, this is called as histone octamer. So now we understood how this histone is getting arranged. Now we should also know how our DNA is getting wrapped over this one. So over this histone octamer, DNA is wrapped. It is wrapped. DNA is getting wrapped over the histone octamer. Okay, see, DNA molecule gets wrapped like this over the histone octamer. Now again after some time, after a few distance, again you will have another histone octamer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then again the rest 4 superimposed on this one. So this is the second histone octamer. Now after moving for a certain distance, DNA gets wrapped over the second histone octamer. Then again this continues with the third one, fourth one, fifth one, likewise. So when this DNA is getting wrapped over this positively charged histone octamer, now you know what is happening is the repulsive forces between that phosphate is getting reduced because there are positive charges in between. Okay, see how wonderful it is. How well planned our cell and DNA and this genetic material, everything is getting arranged. Okay, it's actually nature's wonder. So here DNA is getting wrapped over this histone octamer. So this particular 1 unit of histone octamer plus DNA getting wrapped over that, you call this unit as a nucleosome. Nucleosome. So what is nucleosome? Nucleosome is an arrangement of our DNA wherein the DNA is getting wrapped over histone octamer. What is histone? They are positively charged proteins. So 8 such positively charged proteins or histones are arranged, and over that our DNA is wrapped. That gives you the nucleosome. Again this one. This is another nucleosome. This is another nucleosome. So likewise there will be a third one, fourth one, fifth one. That means there will be repeating nucleosomes. And in between that, there is a small part of DNA which is linking the two nucleosomes. So you call this part as the linker DNA. Linker DNA. So again there will be a linker DNA followed by next nucleosome. Likewise. So this is how it is arranged. So I can say here that nucleosome, third point, nucleosome is the repeating unit. This is a repeating unit of a chromatin. Of a chromatin or a chromosome. When will you call this chromatin as a chromosome? Chromatin is simply thread, isn't it? Over which chromatin or chromosome is made up of DNA and proteins. This we have been learning from lower classes onwards, from standard 9 onwards or standard 8 onwards we were learning. What is chromosome? Chromosome is present in thread-like structures inside the nucleus, and this thread-like structure is made up of DNA and proteins we were learning. Now we understood what is that DNA and what is that protein. Okay, this is our DNA wrapped over this protein of histone octamer. So that is our chromosome. But this chromosome is visible only during the metaphase of cell division. Isn't it? That means metaphase, what happens is maximum the chromatin condenses. It shortens and thickens to the maximum, that is condensation happens. So it becomes visible as X-like structures, chromosomes. Okay, so what is the repeating unit there? It is a nucleosome, which is the repeating unit in the chromatin. And this chromatin again condenses during that metaphase, or shortens and thickens during the metaphase, and then it forms the chromosomes. So this chromatin forms the chromosomes, and this chromosomes they are visible only during the metaphase of cell division. For this to happen, again it needs some additional proteins. It can just be packaged with the help of some additional proteins. And those proteins which are again involved, they are called as non-histone proteins. They are called as non-histone proteins. So it is the histone protein and the non-histone proteins which are involved in DNA packaging. Okay, so histone proteins forms the octamer over which the DNA is wrapped, and you call that structure as the nucleosome. So the nucleosome is the repeating unit of a chromosome. For the chromatin to form the chromosome, again it has to condense, and that condensation is brought about by a special kind of proteins called as non-histone proteins. So don't worry about the structure of the proteins, what that is and everything. It will be dealt with in another session. Okay. But then now, one small point I have to tell you regarding this. So packaging is actually over. If simply it is asked how DNA is getting packaged, DNA is getting packaged as repeating units of nucleosome to form the chromatin. In one sentence the answer is done. Now, your thinking should go like, what is nucleosome? Nucleosome are histone octamers over which DNA is wrapped. Now, what is histone octamer? Made up of histone proteins, 8 histone proteins, and then the question is, what is this histone proteins? They are proteins rich in positively charged amino acids. Now, why positively charged amino acids? Because our DNA is having phosphate, which is negatively charged. If that is kept inside the very small nucleus, they will repel and the stability of the genetic material will be lost. So we have this. So likewise, children, you should connect and learn so that in whatever ways the question is asked for the exam, you can answer them with ease. Okay, so this is how things are packaged inside the nucleus of a eukaryotic cell. Now what about a prokaryotic cell? It doesn't have a nucleus, but it is kept inside a particular area. You call that area as a nucleoid. Let's see that also. So this is DNA packaging in eukaryotes, means those cells which have got a nucleus of their own. But what if the cells don't have nucleus? Or how DNA is getting packaged inside a prokaryotic cell? It's very simple. There, as I've told you, this in prokaryotes, so suppose I draw a bacterial cell, they are placed in a very small area in the form of loops. DNA is present as loops. Okay. And why they are held up in this very small area, do you know? Because it is only in this area that you have the histone proteins or the positively charged proteins. But they are not as octamers or anything, but they are distributed in this particular area. And in that area, you can find DNA as loops. And this whole area where you find the DNA, genetic material, you call that area as a nucleoid. Instead of nucleus, it is nucleoid. So it's very simple. How DNA is getting packaged in prokaryotes? They are packaged in the form of loops in an area called as nucleoid, and in those areas they are rich in positively charged amino acids. Okay. Now one very small thing related to packaging, and it is often asked for the board exam also, like what is the difference between euchromatin and heterochromatin? With this very small area, we'll stop this session, and in the next session we'll come with some interesting aspects, some experiments. Okay, so let's understand the difference between euchromatin and heterochromatin. Euchromatin and heterochromatin. See the word eukaryote, having a true nucleus. So euchromatin means a true chromatin. True chromatin means active chromatin. If it has to be active, it has to be loosely packed. So it is all based on how packaging is done. How packaging is done, based on how packaging is done, means how tightly or loosely the packaging is done. There are two types of chromatin. Okay, euchromatin and heterochromatin. Euchromatin, the first point, it is loosely packed. Since it is loosely packed, it is highly active. If you are tightly kept somewhere, you will not have your individuality, isn't it? You will be doing as others are instructing you. You will not have your activities of your own. But if you are kept aside, if you are given freedom, you will do a lot of work. You can use your own brain and you can do your activities. Same way here, euchromatin is loosely packed and so it is highly active. Okay, and again since it is loosely packed, it will take up only very less stain. When it is stained and it is viewed through the microscope, euchromatin will take up only less stain. So it will take up less stain, or it is lightly stained. Lightly stained. This is when you view through the microscope. Now look at the other one. It is all based on, I told you, how packaging is done. Here it is loosely packed, but heterochromatin, it is very, very tightly packed. So the whole region of our DNA, some areas are loosely packed, some areas are tightly packed. Or some chromosomes have DNA loosely packed, some chromosomes have DNA tightly packed. So based on that, you have two types of chromatin or chromosomes, euchromatin and heterochromatin. So here, heterochromatin is very tightly packed. Since it is tightly packed, it is inactive. It is an inactive chromosome. Okay, this particular part, what is the action of a chromosome? Again, it is coming. It is a very wonderful thing, children. Please wait for that. So it is inactive because it is tightly packed. It is inactive, and since it is tightly packed, it will take up all the stain and it will keep it with itself. Okay, so when you add stain, it will have dense stain, or it is densely stained. It is very densely or darkly stained. So this is the difference between euchromatin and heterochromatin, or this is the two types of chromosomes based on their packaging nature. So I hope you all understood today's session, and today we had actually dealt with DNA packaging. I've told you in the beginning why this packaging. Plus one more point I told you regarding how the questions can be asked regarding the dimensions of DNA. Children, you should all know regarding the dimensions of DNA, and for that you should know the DNA structure very properly, clearly, because if you don't understand the structure of DNA, you will not understand the topics which I am going to teach you in the next session, like transcription, translation and all. Okay, those are very, very important questions or portions from board exam point of view also. So do subscribe the channel, go back to the previous videos, learn it, get your mind fresh and keep asking doubts. I'm getting wonderful doubts and I'm very happy that my students are thinking over of what I'm teaching. So that gives a great happiness for me, children, great happiness for me, because you're thinking on what I am teaching and you're coming with some very wonderful questions, and actually you are making me to refer more and more things. Not only this NCERT textbook, you are making me refer beyond that. I'm very happy for that, for your responses. Keep supporting, keep subscribing the channel. Thank you all.